Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd. And you are here today for the May 2017 Coffee Pot webinar, where we have a special guest today, me, talking about something that we've developed. If you're familiar with how we do things here at these Coffee Pot webinars, we usually bring someone from a company that makes something that is an add-on to Tabs or PracticeMaster or World Docs, and have them talk about their company and their product, and then I talk about how it integrates with Tabs and PracticeMaster. But today we're talking about something that we've developed and that we're selling. It's our budgeting tab within PracticeMaster. Without further ado, I'm going to press the series of magic buttons that I always press to get me out of here. And here we are. We're in PracticeMaster at this point. If you're not familiar with PracticeMaster, this is the client screen within PracticeMaster, and I'm looking at a list of all my clients. Now, a little bit of history. If you do insurance defense work, and there may be, I just read the description for this Coffee Pot webinar, and I talked specifically about insurance defense, but there may be other instances where you want to budget things and then see how you're progressing with that. But it happens most prevalently in the insurance defense world. You go to these websites that you're submitting your bills on, you're required to upload a budget, and that budget then needs to be adhered to. Usually what happens is people create a budget, they upload it, and it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. The first time that they hear anything about them being over budget is from the client. And that's not good, because the client doesn't want to be telling you that you're over budget. They want to be dealing with a firm that's maintaining a budget, staying within the budget, or alerting them to the fact that the budget needs to rise because of whatever circumstances made the budget need to rise. One of the things that insurance companies are doing these days to tell you that you're over budget is refusing to pay for the extra time that was spent. So again, that's the worst way to find out that you're over budget, is by the insurance company simply saying, we aren't going to pay this extra money that you have submitted in a bill. So that definitely is the latest you could be notified that you're over budget. And so this budgeting tab is an attempt by us to keep that from happening and to get you notified that you're approaching budget, or that you're where you are with budget as early as possible, as opposed to as late as possible. Now, my history with this comes from a client that had us probably 5 or 6 years ago take a spreadsheet that they were using to manually maintain budgets and manually keep track of the actual costs that were being incurred. And they had us automate the spreadsheet. And so the spreadsheet, you could go into it, you could pull up a spreadsheet that was a budget for, let's say, client 200.01, Peterson Insurance. You could see what you had budgeted, and you could hit a button and it would go out and get the actual cost from Tabs. And at the time, that was, to them and to us, kind of groundbreaking. It was the first foray into monitoring a budget without the billing department having to go in and say, here's what we've billed so far. And the budgets usually are broken down by not only the phase, but in many instances the 100 groupings of those phase, the L100, the L200, the L300, and the individual levels that those are at. So it's a very arduous task to go into Tabs and try and figure out what the actual costs are and get them into this spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet that was automated was kind of revolutionary, but it was still what we call pull technology, meaning somebody has to say, I wonder how close we are to budget on 200.01. Let me have Sylvia run that automated spreadsheet we have and tell me, and then Sylvia would do that. And so when another client came to us and said, well, we need something to do budgeting, we kind of rethought it, and this is what we came up with. This is the budget tab. And what this does is it gives you a place in PracticeMaster on a separate tab just for budgeting. We are in the 200.01 case for Peterson Insurance. So when we go into this budget tab, you'll of course see that we are in the 200.01 Peterson Insurance Company case. And we have added budgeted and actual columns for all the expense groupings, all the phases and activity levels, L110, L120, L130, etc., and then a total, subtotal, if you will, for L100. Then we have L200, all the individual activities and or groupings, or phases, I should say, and then a subtotal for that group of phases, all the way down to the L500s. Now, I want to stress that we sell this as a package that kind of comes out of the box with the L codes. But you can do it for anything. If you're a patent firm and you need to budget patent matters that are non-litigation related, we can use the P codes or the T codes. Any set of codes could be used. It's just that this is the one that's most prevalent, and so this is the one that we're demonstrating. So what you see here then are budgeted and actual columns for all of these areas, subtotals, and then over here we have the expenses as well. We have a couple things going on over here. This is the last date and time that the import mechanism was run. This is the magic that happens in the background to pull all these actual figures in. We have unhandled fees and unhandled costs. If you've ever set up a task-based billing client incorrectly and inadvertently billed, or maybe before it became task-based billing, you billed some items that weren't within these code sets, you know that sometimes you will have billed clients that you're currently billing in a task-based way with these code sets. You will have billed them some regular fees, and that's where these unhandled fees and unhandled costs come in. They need to be accounted for because they are in tabs. Now, most of your cases that you're going to start now going forward for a certain insurance company that you're using these code sets for aren't going to have unhandled fees and costs. But that's what they are. These are costs and fees that don't fit into one of these categories that actually are in tabs having been billed for this client, or maybe not having been billed, but they're in WIP. Fee write-off and expense write-off. We all know about insurance companies and how they like to not pay certain small portions, or sometimes not so small portions, of their bills. Obviously, the most prevalent is we're going to pay you 2% less if we pay on time. And so what many firms will do is they'll bill the whole amount, and the insurance company will pay within the required time frame, and they will simply not pay that 2%, and you'll write it off. So as you do that, we need to keep track of that as well. And then, of course, we have expenses, both actual and budgeted. Now, these actual columns, both of them, and any of the subtotals or the total at the bottom are not fields that you enter something into. In fact, the only fields on this screen that you enter things into is you set whether you want an email, and you set the budgeted amounts. You don't need to put the totals in because it'll calculate that for you. So you set this, 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 and this. You leave that alone, and the next time the magic runs, we'll get to that in a second, this subtotal will fill in automatically. You can put it in, but it'll be overwritten as it's recalculated each time. Again, over here, you don't put anything in this column. You don't put anything in the subtotals or the totals, so you fill this, 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 and this in, and move on down to here. You're basically filling in the budget amounts that you're filling in when you're preparing the budget for the client. So what happens then? How do we know? How do we get these figures to fill in? How do we get these subtotals to fill in? That happens on the server that you're running your STI software on. I'm going to go over and show you a simulation of what's happening, and we'll actually see some emails come in because we are within 80% of budget. Let me back up and explain that part too. Out of the box, this solution comes warning us if we get in within 80% of budget on any of these line items, okay? So if we're within 80% of budget on anything, we will get an email. Now, we've had clients put this in and want to go way further than that. They want to do it on an individual level. We want to know if we're within 95% budget on fact investigation, but we want to know as soon as we're within 75% of budget on analysis and strategy. And so we've added fields for some clients that let us do those percentages on an individual line item basis. And that makes sense. Let's say you're within 75% of analysis and strategy, and then you say, okay, we're done with analysis and strategy. We know we're within 75%. So we want to change this now to 99%, meaning don't warn us again unless we pretty much come right up against it or go over it. Because we're done with analysis and strategy. We are within 75%. We're within 80% probably, obviously. So if we change this then to something higher on an individual line-by-line basis, we won't be warned of that again. So out of the box, at the set initial cost, this comes equipped with all these fields, and it can be a different code set if you want, and equipped to warn you if this box is checked and this matter, whatever matter, has come within a certain percentage of budget. You can define the percentage out of the box. It defaults to 80, and when we can change it to 90, we can make it 75, we can make it 95, whatever you want. If you want to go further, if you want to change things, or you want to have a different grouping, we're just charging our regular hourly rate to make those modifications. But it is a custom program that you can buy as at a set price, and then make whatever modifications you want to. So back to the magic. What's happening there? Now you won't see this, but we're gonna see it now. But what I'm saying is you won't see this on a day-to-day basis. There's software that we've written that runs at a predetermined interval. Most of our clients have it done on a nightly basis. Usually it's something like 2 a.m. when their backups are done and nobody's in the software yet. But people don't have to be out of the software for this to run. And some clients have it running every hour. I have one client that has an extremely powerful STI server, and they have it running every 5 minutes because they really want to know the minute they get over or close to budget on any case. So it's entirely up to you, but it has a lot to do with the processing power of your server. And so let's start this off. I'm just going to double click this little icon, and you'll see that what happens is it goes out, finds all the cases that it's supposed to get actual data for, goes out and gets that actual data, and then it waits for that import to complete. It waits a minute because sometimes the import takes, you just saw ours. It actually has pulled that data back in now. It's already on that budget tab, the actual figures and the subtotals. But it waits a minute because sometimes this will take, 15, 20, 25 seconds. And so it waits that minute, and then it goes to check and see who it sent emails to so that it can turn off the email notification. So if I skip back here while we're waiting for that minute to go by, as soon as it sends me the email to say that we're within 80% of budget, it waits that minute, and then it goes out and it turns us off. And you'll see in the email that we're about to look at that it warns me that this matter is within 80% of budget, and then it tells me specifically, and here's the second thing coming in to set that field. And so now if we were to go over here and come back to budget, I'm betting that that's going to be off because it has warned me. It sent me an email. We'll go look at it in a second. It sent me an email to say this is within 80% of budget. Hey, if you want to be warned again once you've maybe adjusted your budget or dealt with whatever's going on, just check this box again. But it doesn't, it turns this box off because most of our clients do not want an email every time it runs, especially the client where it runs every 5 minutes. Hey, you're over budget. Hey, you're over budget. Hey, you're over budget. The guy gets back from lunch and he's got 27 emails saying he's over budget. I guess that would be a long lunch, but we won't go there. So that again is something that out of the box we can change for you. If you want to be warned every day or every time the routine runs that a matter is within budget, that a matter is approaching being over budget, I should say, then you can tell us, hey, just leave this on. Don't worry about turning it off. We'll deal with the over budget issues. So let's take a look at what we got. Well, first off, I have library books that are either due or have arrived. But more importantly, here's the client budget warning. One or more line items in the budget for 200.01 are within 80%. This is the only email you receive unless you pull the matter up in PracticeMaster and reset the send email checkbox. This language can be whatever you want. This subject can be whatever you want. We have it currently defaulting to budget warning, the client ID, and then the matter description or the work description for the matter. Now, there wasn't an error, but we kind of tricked our software into sending this email anyway, just so I could let you know that if at any point it encounters an error in trying to pull this stuff into PracticeMaster, it sends an email, and our clients don't usually have these emails going to them. They usually have them coming to us, simply so we can be on top of the fact that something's gone wrong. And that error happens to include the error log, which in this instance is going to be empty. And so normally it wouldn't send this email if it was empty, but we, as I said, we tricked it out to send it so you could see this. And it includes what it was trying to import, just so that our technicians and our developers can look at that and say, oh, here's what went wrong, okay? Because we need to be on top of any errors, or the client needs to be on top, and usually they're having us do that for them, of any errors on importing, so that we can eradicate them and make sure that the data is coming in properly every time. But here's the budget warning again, just in case you missed it. This is what the primary and secondary attorney, or if you have other ways of identifying who's on the case, it can be a lot of different ways. We're out of the box, and we can change this for you out of the box at the initial cost. Maybe you've got a field that identifies 3 attorneys by contact ID. A lot of people have different ways of identifying the people that are tied, the attorneys, the paralegals, the legal assistants that are tied to matters, and we can deal with anything. It's just that right now, the way it's written, it sends an email to the primary attorney and the secondary attorney saying, hey, one or more items is over budget. And now if we go back here, same thing, we've got pretty much the same totals and everything. It went out and got actual. If I had added more fees, if anybody had added more fees, or if a bill had gotten sent and fees became archive instead of WIP, they're still going to show up in here. Let's just go real quick and change this to 19,000, just so you can see how it works when it runs. We'll go ahead and do this send email again. I'm going to save this. So I did that with a keyboard. I didn't hit this button, in case you're wondering why didn't he save it. Actually, my keyboard didn't work because now it's grayed out. So I've saved this record. I've changed this to 19. You'll notice that this total is still wrong because I didn't change it. I didn't change it to 2,400, to 20,400. I left it because I want you to see what's happening here. So we're going to go out and we're going to run this one more time. And wait for it. At this point, if I refresh this screen, and I'm going to do that by going over to list and then back to budget, where our total's now correct. If anything had been billed in the interim, it'd be over here. Our warning email is still off because we're now waiting for this to come back. I'm just going to minimize, and we'll wait the extra time. Patty, do you know any lawyer jokes we can tell while we're waiting?
Sorry, Paul, I don't.
That's all right. We wouldn't want to tell a lawyer joke on this one. How about any insurance adjuster jokes, since we're talking about insurance defense?
No, don't really make it a habit to know those either.
Okay, that's all right. So now what it's doing, as I explained before, is it's waiting that predetermined amount of time to let the import that really happened very quickly happen. And now it's going in and saying, okay, I sent an email to warn Paul, and you'll see that email here. There it is again, another error because we tricked it out. Something from Red Roof Inn, of course, and the client budget warning. Same thing happened before, and now if we go back over here and refresh this screen just by going back to the list and back to budget, it's been turned off. That's it. That is our budget mechanism. The question you're all waiting for me to answer is, how much does this cost? Out of the box, it's $1,995, $1,995. Patty's laughing. She's thinking $19.95 like at the supermarket. No, a little higher than that. Yeah, this is a project that took literally hundreds of hours to develop and think through and refine. Work with several clients to make it work in a manner that is extremely flexible and extremely automatic. And so you can have it for the low price of $1,995. And then any modifications that we make, other than the ones I said that we'd make kind of just as a generic installation, like if you don't want this to reset, or if you want a different code set, you don't pay extra for that. But if you say, oh, we want to be able to specify the percentage on a line-by-line basis, Currently, that's not in there. So in the out of the box package. So you would pay a little extra for that. You're not going to pay the full cost that it took us to develop that for the client that wanted it. The one of our clients that wanted that level of granularity in this budgeting mechanism. Certainly, but it's going to cost a little bit of extra, and it may vary depending. A lot of things may vary once we get into the extras, depending on how you're structuring it and what we're doing, how we're handling it. It's an extremely flexible, extremely powerful, totally automatic mechanism, but that flexibility is key because different firms have different ways of wanting to monitor these budgets, wanting to alert certain people to what's going on. And so we're able to accomplish some of that in the set 1995, and what we can't accommodate within that price, we can do as custom work. What does the 1995 get you? It gets you this tab. It gets you all these fields added. It gets you the programming installed on the machines that the server to run the export and import that goes out and gets that actual data and subtotals those fields and pulls it back in. It gets you that code. It gets you everything installed into PracticeMaster, and it gets you all the ODBC connections and installation of the program on your server to make it run. 1995 out of the gate, and a pretty powerful way to monitor your budgeting. That's all I have for today. If anyone has questions, you can always reach me at paul.purdue, like the school, not the chicken, P-U-R-D-U-E, paul.purdue at attorneycomputersystems.com. And speaking of attorneycomputersystems.com, let's go to Google Chrome and go to attorneycomputersystems.com. I don't know if you're noticing, but there's an emphasis on this last S, because without it, you won't get there. Because this is where you will find all of our videos, all of our content. We have 4 things that we do live. We have our 3 virtual user group meetings that are always, almost always, the last Monday of the month. We have our Coffee Pot webinars. You know about them because you're here right now. We have our pre-recorded content. Mary Jo does her eBytes video series. 3 of them each month, 1 on tabs, 1 on PracticeMaster, 1 on World Docs. Short little 3-4 minute videos with something really cool, very succinct, very easy to explain that we think you might find useful. And we have our longer format Paul and Mary Jo show where I or Mary Jo take a broader topic and go into greater detail, take a deeper dive and spend 10 or 15 or sometimes 20 minutes explaining exactly what's going on with whatever it is that we're talking about. If you go to any of these, let's go to the live event that we're currently at, the Coffee Pot webinar, you will find a short description of what the Coffee Pot webinar series is. You'll find information about our next Coffee Pot webinar. Links, these 2 links are identical. They just are different links to the same thing, if you will, to register, complete description of what we're talking about, and then as you scroll down, you will find recorded versions of our past titles in that area. We're looking right now at the Coffee Pot webinars. So this is where you are right now. So obviously this is currently in post-production. Heck, it's not even in post-production. It's in the middle of things production. But this will be available on the site in a week or so. And here is the video for the webinar that we gave the month before, and the month before, and the month before. And we literally have hundreds, if not thousands of videos. I think we're either approaching or over the 1,000 video mark that can be browsed and kind of just scrolled through, if you will, or it can be searched for something specific that you're looking for. So please take advantage of those. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, even Christmas and New Year's. So please take advantage of them. Thanks so much. Everybody have a good rest of the month, and we will see you in July. Bye-bye.